crisp with the freshness of last night's rain. Harry stood at the intersection of First Street and Pine Avenue, skateboard in hand, ready to embrace the rush of speeding downhill. The early morning light filtered through the trees, casting a dappled pattern on the wet pavement. He could feel the cool breeze against his face, a promise of exhilaration. He lived for moments like these, where he could feel the pulse of life in every swift motion, the hum of the skateboard wheels on the asphalt, and the thrill of letting go. As he pushed off, the world around him began to blur. The houses, the trees, and the cars parked along the street all merged into a single moving canvas of color. Harry's focus narrowed to the path ahead, the incline steep and inviting. He leaned forward, gaining speed, the rush of air a symphony in his ears. But just as he reached the height of his adrenaline rush, a loud bark shattered his tunnel vision. Startled, Harry turned his head slightly and caught a glimpse of a blur of brown fur and a mouthful of teeth. Time seemed to stretch, the world slowing down as his heart pounded in his chest. Fear gripped him, not just from the immediate danger, but from the uncertainty that loomed large in that split second. He could no longer see the road ahead, any potential obstacles, or even if anyone was around to help. It was just him and the imminent threat of the dog. The dog was closing in fast, and Harry, with full focus on the dog, skated over a stone on the road. His skateboard wobbled precariously beneath him. He felt the ground shift, his body reacting on instinct to keep his balance, narrowly missing falling down. Harry's thoughts flashed back to a time when his father had told him, "Sometimes you need to step back to see the full picture." He had dismissed it then, but now it resonated deeply. As he regained control of his skateboard, narrowly avoiding a collision, he realized he needed to focus on everything in front of him to get out of this situation intact. Rather than focusing on the problem behind him, he couldn't afford to face this situation with such a narrow point of focus anymore, and pushed forward with vision anew. As he reached the bottom of the hill, the dog's bark faded into the background, and the blurred world slowly came back into full focus. Harry stopped, his heart still pounding, and took a deep breath. He looked around, noticing for the first time the beauty of the morning, the vibrant colors of the trees, and the gentle chirping of birds. All this beauty had been invisible until he focused away from the problem at hand. In that moment of reflection, he understood that life's challenges are not meant to be faced in isolation. He realized the importance of not letting fear blind him to the beauty and support around him. He took a deep breath and smiled, feeling a sense of calm and relief wash over him. Skateboarding is about the balance of the body. Similarly, the problems we face in life are about the balance of the mind and heart. Harry knew that he would face more hills and more barking dogs, but he also knew that in challenging times, he should widen his focus to the possibility of help or solutions all around him, if only he allowed himself to see it. Whenever life throws us a curveball or presents us with a seemingly insurmountable challenge, our instinct is to shut everything else out, to focus solely on the problem at hand. Our tunneling vision blocks out any potential support or help from the outside of our focus. There is more to living than just surviving each moment of life's unknown challenges with fear. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. The sun had just begun its descent, casting a golden hue over the turquoise waters as the plane landed on the small island's runway. Richard and Emily, a couple in their mid-40s, stepped off the plane, their hearts swelling with anticipation. This was their first overseas trip, a dream realized after years of diligent saving and planning. It was meant to be a celebration of their hard work and a chance to reconnect as a family. Their daughters, Stacy and Ava, aged 14 and 12, however, seemed less enthusiastic. From the moment they disembarked, their faces were buried in their phones, fingers tapping and swiping away. Richard and Emily exchanged a worried glance, hoping the beauty of the island would soon draw their girls' attention away from their screens. The first few days at the resort were frustrating and disappointing for the parents. Despite the breathtaking scenery, the girls remained engrossed in their digital worlds. Richard and Emily tried everything to engage them. Snorkeling, visiting local markets, and even a boat tour to see dolphins. Yet, the magic of the island seemed lost on Stacy and Ava, who barely looked up from their devices. One evening, as they sat at a beachside restaurant, Richard couldn't contain his irritation any longer. "Girls, look around you. This place is amazing, and you're missing it all because of those phones." Stacy glanced up briefly, a look of annoyance crossing her face. "We are enjoying it, Dad, just in our own way." Emily sighed, her voice gentle but firm. "This trip is special. We saved for so long to be here together. We want you to experience it with us, not through a screen." Ava mumbled an apology, but her eyes quickly returned to her phone. Richard and Emily felt a sense of helplessness settling in. The family togetherness they had envisioned seemed farther away than ever. The turning point came unexpectedly on the 5th day. A tropical storm was to sweep across the island, bringing heavy rains and strong winds. The resort staff advised all guests to stay indoors. Richard and Emily decided to take a short walk before the rain, seeking a moment to clear their minds and figure out how to bridge the growing gap between them and their daughters. As they strolled along the beach, rain suddenly began to pour down heavily, and the waves crashed violently against the rocks. Concerned about the safety of their children, they hurried back to their room, only to find it empty. Panic set in. They searched the resort frantically until they spotted Stacy and Ava near the rocky outcrop, dangerously close to the raging sea, attempting to take dramatic photos with the stormy backdrop. "Get back here, now." Richard's voice was filled with fear and anger. But before the girls could react, a massive wave crashed against the rocks, knocking Ava off balance. Her phone slipped from her hand and was swallowed by the sea as she tumbled towards the edge. Richard's heart pounded as he sprinted to his daughter. He reached her just in time, pulling her to safety. His arms trembling with relief and fear, Stacy stood nearby, tears streaming down her face, her phone forgotten on the wet sand. Back in their room, soaked and shaken, the family sat in silence. Ava, wrapped in a towel, finally broke down. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I was just trying to get a cool picture." Richard hugged her tightly. "You could have been hurt. None of this is worth losing you." Emily joined the embrace, her voice choked with emotion. "We love you both so much. We really wanted to spend time with you, really be with you." Stacy, sobbing quietly, nodded. "I get it now. I'm sorry too. I didn't realize how much it hurt you." The girls, having lost their phones to the sea, began to see the island through new eyes. They played in the sand, explored the hidden trails, and shared meals without the distraction of screens. They laughed together, rediscovered each other, and truly connected as a family. On their last evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the family sat together on the beach, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. Richard spoke softly, his voice filled with gratitude. "This is all I wanted. I've really missed spending time with my girls." As the waves gently lapped at the shore, the family felt a sense of togetherness. They knew the return to their everyday lives would bring challenges, but they also knew they had discovered something invaluable on this island, a deep connection together, free from the distractions of the digital world. In a world filled with distractions, it is the moments of genuine connection that matter the most. Sometimes it takes stepping away from our screens to truly see and appreciate the beauty around us and the people we love. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. Romans 12, verse 2. A young girl named Mia lived in the heart of a tranquil village between rolling hills and whispering forests. She was known for her infectious laughter, radiant smile, and boundless energy. Mia's world was filled with joy, playing with her friends, exploring the fields, and sharing stories under the starlit sky. Yet, her deep bond with her mother was the center of her happiness. Their days were filled with laughter, shared secrets, and spontaneous adventures. They would spend hours in the kitchen cooking delicious meals and talking about everything, creating warm memories. Her mother's love was a constant, a comforting blanket. Mia's father also played a vital role, his booming laughter and tender hugs rounding out the family's happiness. Together, they formed a perfect circle of love, joy, and security. But life, in its unpredictable way, took a sudden turn. One fateful evening, as the golden hues of the sunset painted the sky, tragedy struck. Mia's parents were involved in an unfortunate accident and passed away, leaving Mia and her siblings orphaned. The vibrant colors of Mia's world dimmed, replaced by a heavy veil of sorrow. The laughter that once echoed through their home was now replaced with silence and tears. At only 17, Mia had to shed the joys of youth and grow up instantly. The carefree days of her childhood were replaced with the weighty responsibilities of adulthood. She became the caretaker, the protector, and the guardian of her brother Tay. Overnight, Mia's life transformed from one of carefree happiness to one of hardship and resilience. The neighbors offered simple support, but it was the neighborhood's kind and wise grandmother, Mama Flora, who became their guiding light. She provided comfort and wisdom, and Mia found solace in her. As days turned to weeks and weeks into months, Mia's journey was filled with challenges. She had to balance household chores, care for Tay, and earn money to support them. Mia had no choice but to leave school and take up a job in the nearby town, while Mama Flora kept Tay during the day. Mia did whatever she could to provide for her brother and keep them together. The weight of her responsibilities often felt unbearable, and there were moments of quiet resentment and guilt. Mia missed her parents terribly and longed for the simplicity of her previous life. Amidst the struggle, the siblings found strength in each other and forged a bond deeper than ever before. Mama Flora was always there, a listening ear in times of despair. With a wise word or a smile of comfort, her presence was soothing to Mia's weary soul. She reminded Mia that time could heal even the deepest wounds. One particularly long and hard day, Mia felt the weight of her responsibilities more than ever. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she found herself drawn to her parents' old room, a place she had avoided since their passing. With tears in her eyes, she hesitated at the door, the pain of their absence still raw. But today, she needed to feel their presence once more, even if it was just through the familiar smell of their belongings. As she entered the room, she was flooded with fond memories, remembering times when her parents' love and laughter filled this room. As she walked through the room, her fingers brushed against the familiar objects, a silent witness to the happy times they shared. Lost in her melancholic daydream, Mia accidentally bumped into a cupboard, causing a pile of folded clothes to tumble to the ground. As she knelt to pick them up, something caught her eye. A metal tin hidden at the back. Curiosity piqued. She opened the tin and discovered an array of trinkets. There were drawings and little mementos from their childhood, each sparking a flood of fond memories. Beneath these cherished keepsakes, Mia found something unexpected: gold jewelry and a considerable amount of money. It was a treasure trove, years of savings painstakingly accumulated by her parents. The discovery left her stunned. This newfound blessing was enough to lift the burden that had weighed so heavily on her shoulders. It meant she could finally go back to school and still care for her siblings. As tears streamed down her face, Mia felt a warm, comforting embrace, almost as if her mother was holding her one last time. She could even faintly smell her mother's perfume. This moment of connection, though brief, filled Mia with a renewed sense of hope and determination. With a heart full of gratitude and a spirit rekindled with hope, Mia knew she could face the challenges ahead. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with this unexpected blessing, Mia was ready to embrace the future with courage and determination, carrying the legacy of her parents' love and strength with her always. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41, verse 10. Underneath a sky blanketed by the soft glitter of raindrops, Hannah sat by the window, deep in thought. She had been carrying a heavy burden, an unseen layer of resentment and grudges that weighed her spirit down. Despite her best efforts to fill her life with joy, her happiness seemed tainted, shadowed by the lingering bitterness she could not shake. She didn't want to be miserable, but it was like her mind pushed her there. Hannah's struggle was an invisible one, a battle within the deep recesses of her mind. She had always prided herself on being strong and tough, but lately she felt trapped in a mire of negative emotions. Her happiness was like crystal clear spring water, but the grudges she held were like dark, heavy oil floating on the surface of her joy, tainting everything that passed through it. No matter how much joy she tried to pour into her life, it had to filter through that layer of dark oil, emerging tarnished and impure. She longed for true happiness, the kind that wasn't marred by past hurts or unspoken grievances. She knew the key to unlocking this pure happiness lay in letting go of past hurts and forgiving those who wronged her. But the path to get there seemed elusive. How could she stay positive when her heart was so heavy? How could she forgive when the wounds still felt so deep and fresh? One evening, after a particularly trying day, Hannah found herself wandering through the quiet streets of her neighborhood, seeking solace in the familiar. The gentle drizzle gave way to a steady rain. The world around her blurred by the veil of water. She wandered into a small park, its usual vibrancy muted by the weather. She found a bench under an old oak tree, its leaves offering some shelter from the rain. And she sat down, lost in thought. As she sat there, a memory surfaced, unbidden but vivid. She was a child again, in her grandmother's kitchen, watching as the old woman mixed oil and vinegar in a glass jar to make a salad dressing. Hannah had asked why they didn't mix, and her grandmother had explained that oil and vinegar were different at a fundamental level. Oil will float on vinegar. No matter how much you stir, they slowly separate. But I learned from a school lesson when I was young, add a little soap, and it can break the surface tension, allowing them to blend. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind, and Hannah felt a spark of realization. The grudges she held were like that oil, separating her true self from the happiness she sought. What she needed was something to break the surface tension, to allow her heart to blend with the joy she so desperately wanted. She knew what she had to do, but the thought of facing her past grievances, of forgiving those who had hurt her, seemed overwhelming. The rain continued to fall, each drop a tiny reminder of the weight she carried. But as she sat there, she felt a shift within her, a subtle change. She realized that forgiveness wasn't just for the ones who had wronged her. It was for herself, too. Holding on to grudges was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. She had been hurting herself all along. Hannah took a deep breath, letting the rain wash over her. She began to list in her mind the people she needed to forgive, starting with herself. The process was slow and painful, each name bringing up a wave of emotions. But with each breath, she felt a little lighter, a little freer. The rain began to lighten, and a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the park. Hannah stood up, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. The oil that had coated her heart was beginning to dissipate, replaced by a sense of clarity and calm. She walked home with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to cultivate positivity in her life. She knew it wouldn't be easy, that the journey to true happiness was a long one, but she felt ready to take the first step. She would forgive, she would let go, and in doing so, she would reclaim the joy that had been tainted for so long. In the days and weeks that followed, Hannah continued her practice of forgiveness, each act a small victory. She found that the more she let go, the more space she created for happiness to enter her life. Her relationships improved, her outlook brightened, and she felt a sense of lightness that had been missing for so long. Reflecting on her journey, she had learned that holding on to grudges was like carrying a burden that only weighed her down. True happiness, she realized, came from letting go and forgiving, from allowing the water of joy to flow freely, untainted by the oil of past grievances. She smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. She knew there would still be challenges, moments when the old wounds might resurface, but she was ready to face them with a heart open to forgiveness. She had learned that the key to happiness lay not in holding on, but in letting go. Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. James 4, verse 8. I thought it would be easier as they grow up, Dane muttered, staring at the ceiling in the dim light of the nursery. The soft patter of rain against the window seemed to echo the rhythm of his troubled thoughts. He turned his gaze to Gwen, who was gently rocking their newborn daughter, Lily, to sleep. Her face was etched with exhaustion, yet she wore a tender, unwavering expression of love. It's like no matter what we do, we're always just barely keeping up, Gwen whispered, her voice tinged with worry. Everyone has advice, but none of it seems to fit. It's overwhelming. Dane sighed, his heart heavy. They had read countless books, attended parenting classes, and sought guidance from friends and family. Yet, as each day unfolded, they realized nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of parenthood. Lily, with her unique temperament and needs, had thrown every preconceived notion they had out the window. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. The initial excitement of bringing Lily home had given way to a constant state of vigilance and anxiety. Dane and Gwen found themselves navigating a labyrinth of conflicting advice, each piece of well-meaning counsel pulling them in different directions. It would help if you let her cry it out, Dane's mother had said, with an air of certainty that only years of experience could provide. No, you must attend to her immediately so she feels secure, countered Gwen's best friend, clutching her own toddler to her hip. In the quiet moments, when the world outside was nothing more than a whispering rain, Dane often pondered their journey. He remembered the nights spent cradling Lily, her tiny form fitting perfectly in the crook of his arm, and the way she would eventually drift into a peaceful sleep. He recalled the first smile that illuminated her face, a small yet profound victory that brought tears to his eyes. Every child is different, Dane thought, and so is every parent. He realized that the vast array of advice, while well-intentioned, could never substitute for their unique experience. Lily's needs were her own, and as her parents, they had to find their own path through the maze of parenthood. One particularly rough evening, Dane and Gwen found themselves at their wits' end. Lily's cries pierced through the house, and no amount of soothing seemed to help. Desperation and frustration bubbled to the surface, and they found themselves in a heated argument, each blaming the other for their perceived failures. "It's like we're failing at this," Gwen sobbed, sinking into the couch. "I feel like I'm out of my league." Dane knelt beside her, his own tears mixing with hers. "I feel the same way," he admitted. "But we can't keep tearing ourselves apart. We have to figure this out together." In that moment of raw vulnerability, they made a pact. They would listen to their hearts, trust their instincts, and above all, lead from a place of love. They would make mistakes, but they would learn from them, and they would do it together. The following days were not without their challenges, but something had changed for the better. Dane and Gwen began to trust themselves more. They still sought advice, but they no longer felt bound to follow it blindly. They adapted, finding what worked for them and for Lily. Each small success built their confidence. One night, Dane held Lily close, marveling at how much she had grown. He looked at Gwen, who was watching them with a serene smile. "I guess we're learning," he said softly. Gwen nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and hope. "As long as we lead from a place of love, we're on the right track." Dane smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. Their journey was far from over, but they had found their footing. They had discovered that despite the overwhelming moments, they were enough for Lily. They were her parents, uniquely suited to guide her through the world. In the labyrinth of parenthood, every path is unique. While guidance can light the way, the journey is ours alone. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22, verse 6. Arabella stood in her kitchen, phone in hand, staring at the text message that had just arrived. "We need to talk." The words from her boyfriend, Jason, echoed in her mind, reverberating with a sense of finality. Her heart sank, and a flurry of questions began to swarm her thoughts. What had she done wrong? What could this mean for their relationship? Arabella was no stranger to overthinking. Every detail of her life was scrutinized under the harsh light of her expectations. She had always believed that setting high standards was the key to success and happiness. But lately, it felt like a source of endless frustration and disappointment. As she waited for Jason to arrive, Arabella decided to distract herself with some chores. She glanced out the window at the overcast sky, the world outside a reflection of her gloomy emotions. The minutes felt like hours, and her mind raced through every possible scenario of their impending conversation. Finally, the doorbell rang. Arabella took a deep breath and opened the door to find Jason standing there, looking more serious than she had ever seen him. They sat down in the living room, the air thick with tension. "Arabella," Jason began, "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I feel like we're at a crossroads. I care about you deeply, but I think we've been struggling because we have different expectations." Arabella felt her chest tighten. "What do you mean?" Jason sighed. "I mean that we both have these ideals of what our relationship should be, and it's causing a lot of stress. We're always trying to live up to these perfect standards instead of just accepting each other for who we are." Arabella was taken aback. She had never considered he felt this way, and that her high expectations might be part of the problem. She had always assumed that striving for the best was a good thing. "So, what do you suggest?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I suggest we start accepting things as they are, rather than constantly trying to change them or worry about what they should be. We need to focus on the present and appreciate what we have, imperfections and all." His words struck a chord with Arabella. She realized that her constant need to control and perfect every aspect of her life was not only affecting her relationship, but also her own peace of mind. She'd been so focused on what she expected from life that she had forgotten to appreciate the life she had. As they talked, Arabella began to see things from a new perspective. She understood that acceptance didn't mean settling for less. It meant finding contentment in the present moment and allowing things to unfold naturally. It was a lesson she had long resisted, but now saw as essential for her happiness. One evening, as Arabella sat on her balcony, sipping tea and watching the stars twinkle against the dark sky, she felt a sense of contentment. The change in Arabella didn't go unnoticed. Her friends and family saw a new lightness in her, a calm acceptance that had replaced her previous nitpicking. Jason, too, noticed the difference, and their relationship blossomed in a way it never had before. They found joy in each other's company, free from the burden of unmet expectations. Arabella's journey taught her that life's true beauty lies in its unpredictability and imperfections. By letting go of her rigid expectations and embracing acceptance, she discovered a deeper, more fulfilling way of living. She learned that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the grace to accept things as they are and the courage to face the unknown with an open heart. True contentment comes from embracing life as it is, rather than constantly striving to mold it to our expectations. Acceptance allows us to find peace and joy in the present moment. I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. Philippians 4 verse 11. A tear streamed down Stella's cheek as she saw the plus sign on the home pregnancy test. Her heart, scarred, at last tasted a small bit of joy. She and her husband, James, had tried for years to conceive, and now, at long last, their dreams were finally coming true. They lived in a cozy, rain-soaked cottage, embraced by lush green hedges and cobblestone streets. The early months of Stella's pregnancy overflowed with excitement and joy. James was her unwavering support, ever by her side, comforting her through the waves of morning sickness and mood swings. He never failed to respond when cravings struck, always ready to fulfill her requests. Together, they envisioned the life they would create for their child, eagerly anticipating the inevitable changes that would transform their lives. They dreamed of late-night feedings, cherished first steps, and memorable family holidays ahead. But life has a way of rewriting even the most hopeful narratives. One rainy and foggy evening, as James was driving home from work, a drunk driver from the nearby pub side-slammed his car. The world that had been so vibrant and full of promise for Stella turned gray in an instant. The love of her life, her partner in this journey, was gone. At first, Stella pretended he was just at work, denying what had happened. Grief became a constant companion, shadowing her every step. The nights were the hardest. Stella would lie in bed, the sound of rain tapping against the window, and feel the emptiness beside her. Each day was a struggle to put one foot in front of the other, to find the strength to keep going for the sake of the tiny life growing inside her. As her pregnancy progressed, Stella faced moments of doubt and despair. She would stand in the nursery, running her fingers over the crib James had built, and wonder how she could possibly do this on her own. Yet, in her darkest moments, she would feel a flicker of movement within her, a reminder that she was not truly alone. At 7 months, complications arose. Stella found herself in the hospital, the doctor's words a blur as they explained the risks to her and her unborn child. Fear gripped her heart, but she clung to the hope that had sustained her through so much already. She had to be strong for herself and for her unborn child. Days turned into weeks, and Stella remained in the hospital, confined to a bed. She spent her days talking to her unborn child, telling stories about the father he would never meet, but whose love was already so deeply ingrained in their lives. At last, amidst the relentless pounding of rain against the hospital windows, Stella went into labor. The ensuing hours blurred together, marked by excruciating pain and overwhelming exhaustion, yet also by unyielding strength and unwavering determination. Then, in a moment of profound relief, her baby entered the world, dissolving the hours of agony and bestowing upon her a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. As the nurse placed the baby in her arms, lay a beautiful, bright-eyed baby boy, his presence filling her with overwhelming love and gratitude. As she held him for the first time, her heart brimmed with joy, a radiant light amidst the shadows of her grief. In those eyes, she saw James. The love that had been taken from her so abruptly seemed to flood back into her heart, bringing with it a sense of peace and closure she had not thought possible. Stella named her son Liam, a tribute to the strength and courage that had brought him into the world. As she held him close, she whispered promises of love and protection, vowing to give him the best life she could. And in that moment, she knew that while the journey ahead would not be easy, she had the strength to face it. The rain continued to fall, a soothing symphony that lulled both mother and child to sleep. Outside, the world went on, but inside, Stella felt a profound sense of connection and purpose. She had lost so much, but she had also gained a new life, a new reason to hope and to dream. As she closed her eyes, thoughts of James and the life they had envisioned together flooded her mind. In that moment, she felt a deep certainty that he would forever remain an integral part of their story. his presence echoing in her memories and the tales she would share with her son. This bond, she realized, transcended the barrier between life and death, uniting them in an enduring legacy of love. And so, within a cozy, rain-soaked cottage, embraced by lush green hedges and cobblestone streets, a new chapter unfolded. It became a story of enduring love, a testament to the memory of a man who had enriched their lives with such boundless affection that even in his absence, its warmth flowed into the future. Even in the depths of grief and loss, hope and new beginnings can emerge. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Amidst the never-ending symphony of car horns and pedestrian chatter, lived a man named Ethan with his wife of 5 wonderful years, Natalie. They had built a life filled with love, mutual respect, and dreams. In the city's constant chaos, their small apartment was a sanctuary of peace and togetherness. One sunny afternoon, as Ethan walked home from work, he heard a familiar voice call out his name. Turning around, he saw someone he hadn't seen in years. His childhood best friend, Hannah. Hannah and Ethan had grown up together in a small town far from the city's skyscrapers. They had been inseparable, sharing secrets, dreams, and the adventures of youth. Life had taken them on different paths, and they had lost touch over the years. Seeing her now, Ethan felt a rush of nostalgia and joy. "Hannah, I can't believe it's you," Ethan exclaimed, embracing her warmly. "It's been so long, Ethan. How have you been?" she replied, her eyes sparkling with the same kindness he remembered. They spent the next hour catching up, reminiscing about their childhood and sharing stories of their adult lives. Ethan told her about Natalie and their life in the city, while Hannah spoke of her travels and work. It was as if no time had passed, and their bond remained as strong as ever. When Ethan returned home, he was eager to tell Natalie about the unexpected reunion. However, her reaction was not what he had anticipated. Her face clouded with worry, and her voice trembled as she spoke. "Ethan, I don't feel comfortable with this. You've told me so much about her and the bond you had, and now she's back in your life out of nowhere." Ethan was taken aback. "She's just a friend. She's like a sister to me. There's nothing more to it." But Natalie, burdened by insecurities and the fear of the unknown, couldn't shake off her doubts. "I can't accept that, Ethan. This makes me uncomfortable." Ethan found himself in a painful predicament, torn between loyalty to his wife and the innocence of a cherished friendship. His head lay heavy as the rain began to fall gently against the windows. Ethan sat in their living room, deep in thought. The sound of the rain was soothing, but his mind was a whirlwind of emotions. He knew he needed to talk to someone who could offer perspective. The next day, he reached out to Natalie's mother, Susan, who had always been a source of wisdom and comfort. Pouring out his heart, Ethan expressed his love for Natalie and his confusion about what to do. Susan listened attentively, offering insight gained from her own experiences. "Ethan, remember, marriage is a sacred bond built on trust and open communication." Susan's voice resonated with wisdom. "Natalie's feelings hold weight, and it's vital to approach them with empathy and understanding. As for your enduring connection with Hannah, especially given your shared history, it's natural for Natalie to feel unsettled at times, Susan continued. But it's equally crucial for both of you to bridge this gap, acknowledging each other's emotions with compassion and respect. Illuminate the value you find in Hannah's friendship, assuring Natalie of your unwavering commitment to your marriage vows. Taking Susan's words to heart, Ethan returned home with newfound clarity, finding Natalie sitting by the window, staring out at the rain-soaked city. He took her hand gently. "Natalie, I understand why you feel this way, and I want to work through this together." He shared his conversation with her mother, and together they talked through their concerns and fears. Ethan reassured Natalie of his unwavering love and devotion. "Let's meet with Hannah and talk. I want you to see that she means no threat to our relationship." Reluctantly, Natalie agreed to meet Hannah. The following weekend, they arranged to meet at a cozy cafe. The atmosphere was tense at first, but as they talked, Natalie began to see the sincerity in Hannah's words and the depth of her friendship with Ethan. Hannah, too, assured Natalie that her intentions were purely platonic. Over time, Natalie's fears started to dissipate. She saw how much Ethan loved her and how important their marriage was to him. Natalie realized that her insecurities had been unfounded, and Ethan's commitment to their marriage remained steadfast. As they left the cafe, the sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the city streets. Ethan felt a profound sense of relief. He had navigated a difficult situation with honesty and love, and it had brought him and Natalie closer than ever. Trust and communication are the foundations of any strong relationship. By seeking wisdom from those we trust and communicating openly with our partners, we can overcome challenges, strengthen our bonds, and deepen our connections. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Philippians 2 verses 3 and 4.